think it's a very concise and valuable assessment tool for ongoing assessment. I think it involves the kind of the basic elements of development and things that can affect development like trauma. And it is holistic. It lends itself, it's very flexible with any population, any person, and I wish I would have had this tool as a young clinician because it really organizes your thoughts about your clients and what's going on with them, which I think will deliver much more targeted intervention, more economical because you will be able to target the issues instead of, for instance, going on and on trying talk therapy when there's some fundamental neurobiological issue going on in the brain. It's very exciting to see some of these pieces come together. It used to feel so disparate, every little field kind of had their own bailiwick, and I feel like things are really coming together. This is a tool really any discipline can use, really, that works with human beings. And the human beings are very complex, and of course, as you flesh out those 5 areas, it becomes very complex, but the core of it, the centerpiece of it, is that elegant interaction between those 5 elements in the NEATS.
Could you talk a little bit about how you use the NEATS in your practice? I hear a dog chewing on a chew over there, and I think maybe you could use some examples for Lily.
Yes, that's my therapy dog, Lily, who I've had now for 3 years. And it's kind of her happy hour. She's off work now and enjoying a little rawhide. She's taught me a lot, actually, about attachment and neurobiology and trauma. She's a rescue dog who was traumatized as a young dog. So her recovery, in many ways, parallels that of a lot of the clients I work with. So she's been a good teacher for me.
And there's the other dog.
He signed up for the animal-assisted therapy, and he sat in a chair, and Lily came in, and he was quite afraid, actually. And so the only thing he could really talk about was big teeth, that she had big teeth, and the teeth would bite him. So we just started out by reassuring him. We told Lily's story, that, she would not bite him. But, you can tell people things, but this is experiential therapy, and that's what counts. So he experienced over time her patience of just being with him, and over time it was very funny because at first he didn't even want to pet her. Then over not too long of a time he told us he decided he'd like to pet her, and so had her come over to him and he petted her. And then as time went on, he got on the floor, there were beanbag chairs, and he got closer to her and she'd lay kind of on him and by him, and he'd talk about the big teeth and they're not going to bite me. And he'd repeat this over and over. And he got to the point where he, with our help, would lift up her lip and touch her canine teeth and see that she's not going to bite him. And we talked about how they're for eating and tearing meat and things like that, not for biting people. And then he took a little dog toothbrush that you'd fit on your finger, and he brushed her teeth. And then it was very neat this one day. This was kind of a culmination for me for this work with this certain individual. Of course, he has a difficult time regulating himself. She laid by him, and he laid in the beanbag chair in a way, because it's difficult almost to hold himself up for long periods of time. And he laid, and they actually mirrored each other's position, and they both fell asleep. I mean, I swear their chests were rising and falling with breaths. And it just physiologically was such a nice lesson of how brains regulate each other and what an influence Lily can have over another person's brain. His mood was better, I think. I think he had a little more optimism. I mean, I think he could be quite grumpy. I think he learned over time because he could become aggressive, and we talked a lot about if he was aggressive, we couldn't let him by Lily. That was a safety issue. And so we talked about old him and new him, and new him didn't hurt people when he got upset, and how to handle that. So for him, it was a lot of very basic regulation.
Well, what we do know too is these positive, attuned interactions with Lily is actually building new connections in his brain.
Yes, exactly.
So we don't know over the long term, how much his behavior may actually change, but we do know that new synapses are forming in his brain.
And that's the hope. And I think for him, it will be a longer process just because of the challenges he has neurobiologically. But I think because of the repetition, we will hopefully see some changes, some positive changes from those new neural pathways that are being developed. That's the whole idea behind this animal-assisted therapy.
Right, is to build the new neural pathways.
Through
Okay.
secure attachment experiences.
Chew your bone, honey.
It's like she understood what you were saying.
I think they do.